session is transitioning towards living in harmony, and it's very much about navigating from chaos and cultivating peace, or maybe we should say navigating chaos with cultivating peace at the same time. It's about pathways to living in harmony with nature, and I'm very happy I have three experienced and inspirational colleagues who are here on the panel today. Others were going to join us, but they weren't able to make it. But we're very pleased to have Valerian Bernard, who's based in Geneva and does a lot of work with interfaith organizations and around human rights. Juan Vaquez, who's based in Montreal, Canada, and does a lot of work around eco-shanty, bringing peace to nature, and is a naturopath and homeopath and does a lot of work around environmental issues. And a little bit later, Maureen Goodman will be joining us, who's the International Program Director for the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. She's based in the UK and travels a lot all over the world. And welcome to all of you who are here this afternoon. We're going to hear from our colleagues on this important topic. But mainly we wanted to begin and have a little bit of an opportunity later on for some interaction with those of you who are here. It's a small enough group. We should have some intimate conversation around the contrast between chaos and peace in nature and in our human lives, and how these elements influence our journey towards living in harmony with nature and what we can do about it. And Valerian, if you can say a little bit about your experiences, your understanding of chaos, the different types of chaos, where they come from, and how peace can be an antidote to that chaos.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Great. Yes, I've had quite a bit of experience with chaos. I first wanted to talk to you about natural chaos. Give you the example of a tree producing a wonderful, beautiful flower, and this flower turning into a fruit. And this fruit is small and green to start with, but it's accumulating sun power and power from the earth, and it's maturing and it's getting more and more beautiful, and suddenly this pear in that pear tree has become just the right color, shape and smell, and it's eatable. And that's when usually we think it's a perfect pear tree doing perfect pears. But if you think about it, this pear in the pear tree, if nobody comes and collects it, it's just going to start rotting. And if you think about it, when it starts, it's simple. It's just a flower, a tiny little flower with so few molecules making it happen. But the more it's rotting at the end of its life, the more it will collect so much variety of energy and animal presence, and transform into different smells and transform into the future earth. So by giving this example, I also wanted you to see how everything starts with a seed and then grows into a wonderful tree or plant or life form. But then at some point this is sustained and becomes a full plant or life form. But then it suddenly arrives at a point of decay. And that's when the decay is actually creative, because thanks to decay, there will be a better earth and there will be something else appearing. And very often we don't like the death part as human beings. We don't like the decaying part. So we think it's bad, it's smelly, it's not pleasant. But I think that it's important to start changing our point of view on it, and it starts admitting the value that it has, because in that time, that's the moment where the next seed can be planted for the next project or for the next tree. I actually lived in Chile. Chile is a country where you have lots of earthquakes. And I was one day giving a class in a university, and there suddenly was an earthquake. And I was giving this class, I don't really remember the topic, but there was like 20 students around me, all sitting in their own places. And when the earthquake started, because I was very peaceful and joyful, they all came to touch me. And I became like an island full of people. And my inner feeling was like the earth was like a big dog going, getting rid of all the extra water and energy that it needed to get rid of. And that was what was actually happening when the earthquake was happening. So the feeling I had inside of me was immense joy, as if Earth was communicating the freedom. It was freeing itself from useless vibrations and energies, and whatever energy that it had accumulated needed to be released. And this for me is very connected to the topic we have today, because if you are centered and you're in a space where you're not afraid, not because you are stronger than others, but because you capture another reality about what's happening in terms of destruction and destructivity around you, then you become a resource for everyone else. And you don't mean to, you don't say, I'm the resource, please come to me. No, it's just a natural thing that makes people being drawn by you. Now I want to give you a third example. Maybe I'll stop with my examples, but I love stories. I think they are wonderful to capture ideas. We come from an organization that's based in India. And as you remember probably, there was about 10 years ago so many farmers committing suicide. I don't know if you remember why, but one of the reasons why people were committing suicide there was that Monsanto had been selling the only seeds that were able to purchase in India were these seeds. And the poor farmers could get the seeds, but they couldn't get all the other things that were necessary around the seeds. So the chemicals, fertilizers, but also they used to do natural farming, keeping some seeds every year for the next year. And these seeds weren't working. And so many of the farmers entered into debt. And instead of giving their lands over, they were committing suicide so that their children would still have a right over the land. And that's when Brahma Kumari has been working with people, farmers, who were into addictions. And you can imagine that when you're going through stuff like that, addiction is one of the way out to feel differently about it. And some of the farmers were so stunned at what they had managed to cultivate in themselves: peace and self-respect and the social tissue around the way they were doing their new farming, which is very interesting because the kind of yogic farming they invented themselves was that by meditating they got power, they got strength. So they started meditating on the seeds, meditating on the earth, meditating all along the process of um, the, the, the harvest. And they got amazingly nutritious seeds, a lot better than the normal ones, because some universities had the interest to study that. So my story is in the middle of chaos because their lands were barren, their family were poor, no food, no hope, no. They started creating something completely new, which was their creativity of doing this yogic farming, putting their spiritual energy into their land. And I visited these farmers. The joy that they had was just amazing. So for me, I think this is something that I could speak about more after, because I would like to leave some time for my friends here. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you liked the stories.
Thank you very much, Valerian, and some interesting stories of natural disasters and human-made disasters or chaos, and how people reacted or responded to them in a peaceful and powerful way. So thank you for that sharing. Juan, maybe you can share a little bit. I know you have a historical perspective on some elements of chaos that have been experienced in the world, and are also familiar with other work in India around regenerative agriculture. And maybe you can share how they dealt with chaos and crisis in a peaceful way, in a transformative way.
Hello, everyone, and greetings. Um, I wanted to share a personal story before I get into this, and I think it's very connected to Colombia, is very connected to what I came here personally, which is also to learn from indigenous people who they are and what is their role on Earth. And I recently met one indigenous leader, and he told me how he was connected to the land and how the land speaks to them in order to create harmony and to create prosperity among their people. And in a similar way, one day I decided I practiced meditation for many years, and one of the reasons why I started practicing that is because my life was in chaos, and sometimes we don't need to live in a place that is chaotic. We can just be chaotic and search for that need of peace. And I remember wanting to meditate under the tree, and I went to this park, which was the way saved me through the pandemic. It's a beautiful park in Montreal where I live, and I decided to meditate. And under that meditation, there's like a little thought to came to me. It's like open the book that I was reading. I was reading a book about Earth, and it was telling us. And I opened the page, and the first thing that I saw was Orenda. And Orenda is the energy that the Iroquois people are the people natives of Montreal, and the and that energy is similar to what other nations call mana, prana. That fifth element that some cultures call it too. And it was through that experience of meditation and connecting with the tree, connecting to the land, that I came across the history of the Iroquois people who, uh, like I say, similar maybe like Colombia, they even speak the same languages. They were at war with each other. And what they decided was to create the great law of peace. And the great law of peace united, and I will mention the nations because I don't know them all by heart, but it was the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca, and Tuscura nations, and they created the Great Law of Peace, which they gave them the philosophy and the governance to lead in a way where they can find peace within each other and peace across the nations. And it is based on that Great Law of Peace, which they have different things like governance, the role of women being in leading positions. They have decision-making principles. They have value-based approach, and all those principles help the Canadian and the United States Constitution to be alive and to come true. So it was thanks to these nations, these indigenous people who actually had a symbol of a tree, the tree of peace. And I like to share this story because it's similar to what's happening on the planet right now. That peace is fundamental to find harmony, to live in, to have this transition in harmony with Earth. And but in a more modern way, we have also, like Valerio was sharing, that in India there has been a lot of problems with the land degradation, desertification, and all the the problem with women and gender. So one of our members of the Brahma Kumaris is a youth. She was a she's a youth representative, and she works with the gender agroecology. And one of her projects that is actually here showcase how the role of women is very important in restoring Earth, and how using these practices can allow to give um, some social employment to the people there, to give them hope, to have a very relationship with the land. So they have done a lot of restoration in different areas of India, and that's one of the things that um, that we try to honor when it comes to creating peace with nature, is to work on the land and to work on sustainable practices, on gender agroecology, to put leader in position, which, by the way, Brahma Kumaris is the largest women organization in the world. So I have a spiritual, and I have personally learned a lot, so much about women, and without them, I probably won't even know how to speak about peace. So in a way, knowing all these women in leadership positions have helped me to honor my peace and to share this peace with others at work, what I do, and in all the aspects of my life. So thanks to these experiences, I think we can all come together and create peace. So we know that peace is possible from little projects, from personal to a larger scale. Transitioning to a peaceful society can be possible.
Thank you, Juan, for that. And great, two lovely, quite different examples. One, a historical perspective around conflict between nations, and how they intentionally resolve that conflict by collaborating and developing a form of governance and a way of working together that was based on peace. And then lovely sharing from India of some of the work being done there, led by women and young women who are nurturing not only their families but nurturing their communities in a peaceful way. So lovely examples from both of you about the chaos, the disruption, the crisis we're experiencing in the world, but also maybe a pathway to dealing with that that's a little bit unique, a little bit different than what others may have considered, which is finding peace, cultivating peace within ourselves, and then spreading that out to the rest of the world. So what we'd like to do now, and I'm not sure how it works in this room in silence with the microphones, but to ask the people who are here, some of whom we know and some who are our visitors, what do you think about when you think about the chaos in the natural world? What are the things that come to mind for you? What have you experienced? And maybe how do these moments of disruption impact your connection to nature? How do they make you feel about nature? And then how have you, or how could you use these opportunities to cultivate peace? Sister Maureen, maybe we can ask you to say a little bit about the power of visualization. We heard about cycles, where you feel we are in the cycle, and how we can use visualization to make that transition towards peace.
Thank you. It's been very interesting listening to everybody's experiences, and I'm just aware how much we learn from chaos. We actually learn a lot about ourselves, and we learn a lot about the people around us. And and so unfortunately or fortunately, more than anything, we learn about our own weaknesses in the midst of chaos. But actually, it is fortunately, because then I understand what it is that I need to change inside myself. And when I think about keeping in a state of peace in the midst of chaos, another concept that comes to mind for me is dignity, human dignity. Because peace is one thing, but human dignity enables me to remain in a state of awareness where I can actively choose my response. Because if I'm not in a state of dignity, then it's very hard to get that kind of inner peace. I get very, very affected, very, very influenced. And that term dignity, it just reminds me of a story of the time of the Bhuj earthquake. I think it was 2006 or it was 1990, a long time ago. And some of our brothers and sisters in India were distributing food and supplies to people who one day had everything, the next day had nothing. And what one of the people said to them: when you people come to us to give us things, we don't feel we lose our dignity. And that really touched me. And I understood that it was a change of vision. So on the one hand, if I say, oh, I have the vision of these are poor people and they need handouts and I need to give them something, well, of course, the other person doesn't feel in a state of dignity. But if you say, these are my brothers and sisters, this is my family, that's a very different thing. You're my brother, you're my sister, of course. Let me help you, let me give you something. And it's a very natural relationship, a dignified relationship. And this tells me how important vision is. So when we say visualization, it's actually connected with our vision. And we talk about a spiritual trajectory of awareness, attitude, vision, action, and then world. And the seed of our actions are in our awareness, is in our awareness and our attitude and our vision, and the action comes as a result of that. And so where do we find peace? Where do we find dignity? It has to start from within. And from within, I influence the chaos around me. Now, sometimes, there are things that you can't change, obviously. And if we keep trying to change the things that we can't change, then you know how it is. Persistence leads to resistance, and the things become even more entrenched. But I can do something about myself, my own inner feelings and my own inner thoughts and this spiritual trajectory. And that's much more likely to impact the external and bring about change. Each of us carries an atmosphere around us according to what's going on inside us. Our vibrations can't be hidden. And when I think about protecting myself from the chaos on the outside, I think about giving such a powerful atmosphere around me through very positive and good thoughts, vision, attitude, that then that becomes a natural protection because I'm carrying a very positive energy around me. And like Valerian said, other people then tend to gravitate towards you because they feel a sense of safety. They feel that, yes, you have something that they feel safe and they want to be close and be near that. So if I think about visualization, and perhaps we can do a brief visualization together, it's really about visualizing my real self and the original goodness that I hold inside, because that's what empowers change. We all have goodness within, but when we get influence, of course, the goodness gets forgotten. And we also, in our teachings, actually talk about different powers that you need. And tolerance is a very important power. And it's not just toleration, but if I'm really tolerating something or I have the power of tolerance, it means I have the power to continue to give love even when negativity is coming towards me. So the principle of counteracting negativity with even more goodness. And so let us experience that inner goodness, who we really are. Because, when we get influence, we allow other people to define us. But we know who we are within. And then we define what we wish to be. So just in the midst of all this sound, we will internally go into silence. And I'm taking a journey inside. Let the noise stay outside, but inside is another world. The world of my thoughts and feelings. And it's a world that I can experiment with, understand, and enjoy. And in this inner exploration, it's very much like diving into the depths of the ocean. There may be many storms on the surface, but when you go into the depth of the ocean, there is silence, there is stillness, and there is beauty. So much beauty that has hardly been discovered. And so it is within myself. When I go to the heart of my being, the being that is a conscious living being, the conscious living being that uses the physical costume of the body. But when I go within, into the heart of the being that I am, I find my original treasure of peace. I am a being of peace. I am a being of love. I am a being of wisdom. These are my original qualities. This is my original state of being. When I strengthen these qualities inside of me, when I nurture my inner treasures, I can then interact with the world in a very different way. Where there is chaos, I can bring peace. Where there is hatred and anger, I can bring love. Where there's selfishness, I can bring wisdom. My inner state of being has great transformative power. So let me use that power to help transform our world and return it to a state of harmony. Thank you. You know, it's like in the world at the moment, and it's been touched upon, there are the descending energies and the ascending energies. And our inner treasures, our spirituality, very much the ascending energy. The greed, the hatred, the conflict, very much the descending energy. But ultimately, the ascending energy is stronger, and there will be that tipping point. So in the midst of chaos, let us keep working with the power of peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maureen, for that message of hope and that faith you shared in the hope that we're all looking for the future. Thank you to Juan and Valerian for your stories and your wisdom. And thank you everyone for your sharing in the group today. And as we encounter each other as we walk around the next few days, let's spread that peace and harmony with each other and with all the others we encounter. Thank you so much.